Hey everyone, today we're going to play genetic detective. We're cracking open this really fascinating study that zeroes in on one single gene that might just be a major player in a very serious heart condition. All right, let's get right into it. This is the big question, isn't it? The one scientists have been wrestling with for decades. We all know that lifestyle choices matter. A lot. But what if our own genetic code, the very blueprint of who we are, holds a key that predisposes some of us to heart problems? Well, this study takes a huge step toward an actual answer.
So to really understand why this is such a breakthrough, we first have to get a handle on the problem itself. We're looking at a specific and often devastating group of heart conditions.
So, cardiomyopathy, it isn't just one single illness. Think of it more like a whole category of diseases where the heart muscle itself just isn't working right. For instance, it can get way too thick. That's called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Or it can get stretched out, enlarged, and weak, which we call dilated cardiomyopathy. Either way, the heart really struggles to do its main job, pumping blood around the body. For a long time, researchers have known this is a classic nature versus nurture puzzle. The genes you're born with definitely play a part, but so do things in your environment. The real challenge, the thing that's been so tough, is pinpointing which specific genes are the most important pieces of that puzzle. And that's where the mystery really deepens. I mean, study after study has gone looking for these genetic links, but the results, they've been all over the map. Some find a connection, others find nothing. And all this inconsistency has just fueled a huge scientific debate and left us without a clear answer. Until maybe now. Okay, so this brings us to our prime suspect, a specific gene that's been on the scientific community's radar for quite a while now. So the ACE gene, that stands for Angiotensin-Converting Enzyme gene, it isn't some newcomer to this investigation. Scientists have suspected it's involved in heart health for years, making it a key person of interest in our little genetic detective story. Now, the reason this gene is so interesting is that it comes in a few different flavors. It's because of something called an I/D polymorphism. I know, that sounds super technical, right? But it's actually pretty simple. Inside the ACE gene, there's this specific 287-letter sequence of DNA. For some people, that sequence is there. We call that the insertion or I version. For others, it's just missing. And that's the deletion or D version. Okay, so why on earth does this tiny difference matter? Well, a whole lot of evidence points to the D version, the one where the sequence is deleted, as the potential troublemaker. Having it is linked to higher activity of the ACE enzyme. That, in turn, ramps up the production of a hormone called angiotensin-2. This hormone basically tells your blood vessels to squeeze tighter, which can lead to higher blood pressure and can even encourage the heart muscle to thicken up. And those are two major red flags for heart disease. So with the prime suspect and a pretty clear motive, the researchers needed a solid plan to finally crack this case. And what they came up with was this really clever two-part investigation. Their strategy was just brilliant, really. They hit it from two different angles. First, they did a deep dive local study looking at one specific population in North India. But at the same time, they did a massive global analysis. That means they gathered up the data from 34 other studies on this exact topic from all over the world and crunched all those numbers together. It's kind of like being a detective who not only interviews local witnesses on the ground to get all the fresh details, but also goes back to headquarters and pulls all the cold case files from across the country to see if a bigger pattern emerges. The local study gives you the fresh clues, and the global analysis tells you if those clues fit a worldwide trend. So, after all this detective work, the local interviews, the global data crunching, what was the verdict? Well, what they found was remarkably clear. Let's start with those local clues from North India. The results were stark. People who had that D risk variant of the ACE gene had a 1.3 times, that's a full 30% higher risk of developing cardiomyopathy. This was a huge first piece of evidence, a really strong lead. So that local clue was strong. But the million-dollar question was, did it hold up on a global scale? And the answer was a resounding yes. When they looked at all the combined data for dilated cardiomyopathy, remember, that's the type where the heart gets enlarged and weak, they found a 1.25 times increased risk across all those studies. The pattern was consistent worldwide. And the evidence didn't stop there. For hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the other major type where the heart muscle thickens, the global risk was even stronger at 1.31 times greater.
This was really the final piece of the puzzle. The link wasn't just some local fluke, and it wasn't just for one type of the disease. It was a consistent, global finding that connected all the dots.
You know, the researchers themselves put it perfectly. By combining all this data, they found a consistent, solid link between this one genetic variation and the two main forms of cardiomyopathy. The case against this gene variant was getting stronger and stronger.
Okay, so the science is compelling. A single gene variant is officially a risk factor. But what does that actually mean for us, for medicine, and for the future?
So here's the bottom line. First, and this is huge, we finally have a clear verdict that helps settle years of scientific debate. The evidence is just so much stronger now. Second, this isn't some localized issue. The link is global. Third, it just powerfully reinforces how critical our genes are in figuring out someone's risk for heart disease. And finally, and maybe this is the most exciting part, this opens up brand new doors for research. Now we can dig deeper to figure out exactly how this gene causes problems, and maybe, just maybe, how we can stop it. And that leaves us with the final and most critical question of all. Knowing a person has a higher genetic risk is one thing, but figuring out how to use that knowledge, whether it's through specific lifestyle changes or earlier screening or brand new therapies to prevent them from ever getting sick in the first place, well, that's the next great mystery we need to solve.